Hi guys and welcome back. Ironically, we're also welcoming ourselves back as we've been away for a month back home, and we've come back to an abundance here on the land. Amazing what a month does in the tropics. We came back to this pond. It was absolutely overcrowded. We've taken more than half out already.
What's going on?
A water forest. Look at this. Unbelievable. And it's growing back again. Just shows you how much things grow here. And our bananas have been growing, our papayas have been growing, so we can't wait to show you everything that's happened in the last while. So let's jump straight in and we'll show you what we got. So you've seen a few snapshots of us busy making our worm farm.
Shoveling shit. Thank you, Sappy, for your poo. We're going to make worm compost with it. Or maybe you only speak Balinese. Terima kasih banyak.
It's finally complete, except our top we might just do an amendment on the covers. But apart from that, it's all done. Very unique looking worm farm, I must say. The inspiration was a few things. The one was we were trying to get it ant-free, permanent, and a lot of bulk, so a big enough size. So what we did was we put them on 2 columns, concrete columns, with a concrete base over here. And then inside here we've got 3 massive tubs with an outlet on the back, and that feeds into little buckets, which gives us the worm juice, which we then can disperse amongst all the little plants and trees that we have. So far it's been working absolutely amazingly, except when we went back home for a month, we forgot to tell our helper on the land one critical thing. So how are they doing today?
Oh, looking better. There's just these few over here still.
So what happened?
We had so nicely prepared this little worm farm so that the ants couldn't get in.
Okay, so for reference how we found it, we should have filmed it then, but anyway. So we've stacked wood on either side, and we put the worm farm on these pillars, and we've created a little channel around. And normally we'd put water, but then water attracts mosquito, especially stagnant water. So someone told us we can just get old oil, so old used engine oil, which is a byproduct, which is amazing. And we put that around. That also lasts forever. But what happened, you didn't tell our helper, our mistake. A piece of wood fell and created a little bridge. So the ants were climbing lovely into our worm farm.
Millions of them.
No, I think trillions, because it's so scrumptious. And they're still in there, but we tried our best to take as many out as we can and sweep them off. And then each day we just sweep more and more off, because now they don't have a little bridge to exit. But note to us, be very descriptive of exactly how it works. Yo, amazing. Awesome. Another clever little tip that our advisor gave us was an ant channel for our house. Obviously living in this type of tropical environment, there's tons of ants. And yeah, there's only one thing, it just needs to be maintained because it is stagnant water. You don't want it there for more than a week. So every week we just wash it out, clean it out and fill it up again. And the ants have disappeared. Something else that our advisor also shared with us was there were quite a few mosquitoes. It was already a massive reduction from when we first moved onto the land, but they were still around, and he just kept walking around. He's like, there has to be a house close by, because they don't generally, from their house, they don't really go that far. And we've installed this fence right in the beginning, and it's got bamboo posts all along here, and it was all catching water. So we just drilled holes at the bottom of this platform here, because this is a divide, so no water goes in there. And literally 2 or 3 days later, our mosquitoes dropped by 90%, so we get like 1 or 2 mosquitoes, which is like what we used to get in South Africa, non-tropical space. So super happy about that. The bamboo's too thick.
At that part?
Because it goes thicker than this. But it should be.
Oh, that's a nifty little tool you have there, mister. Ta-da! The temporary gate is finally going up. Bamboo coming to the rescue once again.
Then also high up on our agenda when we got back was soil generation and composting. Just before we left, we cleaned out our first soil gen, which was a long rectangular line, and it worked quite well. We maybe took it out just too soon.
Soil that's been made. Let me give it a smell. Oh, it smells amazing. All made from organic matter, biodegraded over a few months.
But having done it once, as we know, we learn lessons. So we have, before we had this long, about 1.5 meters wide soil generation or compost generation. But I'm thinking I had this lying around because we didn't use it. It might be better to make it in a circular system so that I've got more density or more area around the heat pit, should we call it, in the center. So we're going to give that a try and put on our layers and let it sit for 2 months and we'll see.
Enjoying the Sunday celebrations in the background, Balinese style. So we're reusing the sticks from the previous soil generation pile, and this layer is just to create air coming in from the bottom. The next layer on top of the sticks is browns. So we've put some of these big leaves so that the shredded leaves don't fall all the way through the sticks. Aren't you happy we got a leaf shredder, mister?
Yeah, what a pleasure.
The process is going to go so much quicker, right? Free resources from the land, sponsored by our teak trees. So after the brown layer of shredded dried leaves, we're now putting a layer of greens. How thick? So thick, okay. Finding some greens for our soil generation. These friends grow so quickly.
Need to keep them trimmed. What did you go get?
Our overgrown lilies from our pond.
Let's hope they don't start growing.
Now it's time for the chocolate layer on this cake, the chicken poo.
Previously we used cow manure, but ideally they say chicken manure, so it went okay, but I think by using this chicken manure and getting abundance of it, it's going to work much quicker and much better as well.
Why is that? Chicken's much higher in nitrogen.
So now we're doing another brown layer on top of the chicken poo.
This shredded green and brown has been sitting in bags, and like I can barely stick my hand in here. It is so hot. You'll probably see it steaming. Look at that.
Yeah.
This is hot. Can you see the steam?
And this is what, a few days?
A few days, and it's already started fermenting.
Ooh. Another thing I really like about this mesh system, or this round system, is that when we're throwing everything on, it can go right to the edge without losing much, where before we had to pile on because things keep falling off and we lost a lot of bulk. So this is maximizing for sure.
The final layer, sawdust.
So we've got sticks at the bottom, we've got a layer of brown, layer of green, chicken poo, layer of brown, layer of green, chicken poo, and a layer of sawdust to close it off. And now that's left is just for us to cover it so not too much rain gets in.
Looks like he's dancing to the Balinese music.
Yeah.
You're dancing. Well deserved.
This has been in for maybe 2 weeks and it's sunken a lot, and I've put my hand inside and it's really feeling nice and warm. So I think this is also going to speed up the process a lot more for us, therefore we're able to get a lot more soil a lot quicker. We have so much fruit waste that we need to have all these multiple ways in order to get rid of it, and in the same process creating amazing compost for us. So we put the mesh together, it ends up looking like binoculars, so we call this our binoculars composting. And I was going to do a whole timber structure, but then I thought a circular structure creates its own structure, so just quickly did this now, and this is going to be our fourth mechanism of soil gen / compost. And all I do here is throw in extra fruit waste that we have and brown layers of brown. The ants are doing an incredible job here compared to our worm farm. So this one we just got right connected to the ground and letting it just be as it is. And then once this is full, what I'll do is we'll just simply take this off, which is nice and simple, put it next to it, and it'll fall into a pile, and we can re-put that inside. And by doing that, you're mixing up the area that was on the outside and the inside and mixing it all together, and therefore also speeding up the process. And this is our pit for all our hard things like our durian shells. So all in all, I think we've got about 5 different areas that we're using to disperse our fruit waste. That's our pit, our binoculars, our circular soil gen, and then we've also been digging holes before we do our planting of small fruit trees, and we put some waste inside there mixed with the soil so they've got some good food to start when they need to grow. And obviously our amazing worm farm. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different systems, and it's working all super well. And a little, I want to say, what are those things Santa Claus have, those little workers? A little owl that we had made was called a leaf shredder. We could have found some on the local Tokopedia, which is the online platform, but we saw one working on a friend's farm and it worked super well, so we got the guy to make us one. And it's literally helping us so much. We get so many leaves and green cuttings and all those types of things. We just put it through this machine, it dices it down super fine, and then when we're putting it on our soil gen or around the trees, it ends up breaking down so much quicker and feeding the soil. So that's been a massive helper on the land.
So what else have you been getting up to? Day 2 back at the farm?
Yo, wanting to be as productive as possible. I'm loving it. So we also got our kiln working. We got all this old bamboo and wood, not very good wood, that is just going to get decomposed in this environment. So cutting it up and putting it in our kiln, and we can do only 1 load at a time obviously, so I've got another 2 or 3 loads, which is going to give us ample coal, or biochar I think they call it, which then we will mix in with our soils and wherever we really need it. Thing hotels, what?
Insect hotels.
Insect, no, not insect,
Microorganism
hotels for them to live in our soils.
Not much smoke today, that's good. That's the whole point.
Only the smoke's really coming out here, hardly any over here. So I get mud. Where the smoke's coming out, you throw it like that, but then it heats up and falls off. I don't think our clay contact is as good as it should be. Well, for this. We also got this super old hard wood, which burns amazingly, but it's not very easy to cut.
Ah, looks easy. You make it look easy. What's everywhere?
Ants. But you see, it's our fault. We cut our cocos and we leave it here. They do a wonderful job
At eating
they eat all our stuff that we don't eat. That means they live everywhere here. Moment of truth. Was it long enough?
Looks good.
Oh my gosh.
Let's see closer.
So this is making microorganism homes into hotels by use of water, and you can hear the crackling, which then makes those little houses into bigger spaces for microorganisms to make homes. We've got our charcoal. This time we've crushed it up finely, and also using that within our soil gen. So whenever we're doing a compost heap and doing different layers, we're throwing it inside. And Amy's also using it in her seedling house, just also in and amongst the soil, just to create this wonderful biodiversity within that. What else do you grind? You grind your teeth. So what you're doing? You're grinding charcoal.
Some of your activated charcoal that you made. And since we're struggling to find like good natural toothpaste, my mom actually gave me the idea to use charcoal, because that's what people used to use back in the day. And I'm going to combine it with a little bit of coconut oil just so that it's a more enjoyable experience, and maybe with a few drops of essential oil, some mint or some grapefruit or something. We're going to just trial and error. So I'm just trying to get it as fine as possible into like a powder. So something else that we got just before we left is my plant stand, which I'm so excited about. Chris spent a lot of time customizing this design for our needs, so we decided to make it out of metal instead of wood. Even though I really like the look of wood, it wasn't too practical because I'm watering this every day and wood would just rot over time. Put a bit of mesh here so that the smaller plants don't fall through, and then when I water it, everything just goes through. It's also been staggered nicely so that it gets maximum sunlight. There's none of the shelves casting shade on other shelves, so all the plants get sun. And something else we had to factor in, a bit of a hard lesson I learned in the beginning, was that I was planting little seeds like lettuce seeds, which are really small, and they were just not germinating, and I didn't know what was going on, and we figured that ants steal the seeds, and so it was very important to ant-proof this. We're initially going to put kind of water around each entry point onto the stand, but Chris very cleverly decided to paint some old engine oil onto the base of this so that the ants can't get up, and it seems to be working really well. So you'll see here I've used some bamboo and some coconuts for planting some of our seedlings. Another nice idea for planting little seedlings or germinating seeds is making little trays out of banana leaves, which is quite fun to do. I think I made them a little bit too shallow, so I found that they dried out very quickly. But next time I'll just do the leaves a little bit taller so that the depth is a lot deeper than I did it the first time.
So when we just got to the land, we obviously wanted to designate our durians and our mangosteen trees. As novice as we were, we made these small little wooden perimeters, and we filled it with mulch and things like that, and we thought we were doing a great job. But looking at the neighbors and how they treat their mature trees is to increase the boundary of where you're going to nourish the plants. So that's what we're doing now. So initially we had a small little circumference like this, and we're just moving it out by 1 meter. We should go a little bit further definitely, but because of such a slope, this is as good as we're going to get for now.
Some things you just have to learn as you go. I thought that this would be a perfect spot for blackberries, but what I'm finding is that it grows a bit like a weed. It shoots under the ground and shoots out. Here's a shoot, there's a shoot down there in the middle of the lemongrass. They have these fine little thorns on them. With us walking bare feet all the time and needing to access these beds to harvest things, it's just really not ideal. So we're going to have to find a spot on the land where we can just grow all our mulberries that we don't frequent a lot and that we're not going to get hurt when we're busy harvesting something else. Something we've been enjoying doing is harvesting our rosella. So these rosella plants were standing up yesterday, but after some heavy rain yesterday, it looks like they need to be supported. Before we left, these weren't even flowering, and within a month they are blooming so abundantly. So we're going to cut them, harvest them, and dry them out, and then we're going to have some delicious rosella tea fresh from the garden. I've left some over here because they also make really beautiful flowers. So just finding the balance between harvesting a few for our own benefit, but also leaving enough so that the flowers blossom and they continue to attract the birds and the bees and the butterflies, to just keep a healthy ecosystem going and the biodiversity flowing as nature intended for it to. There's one I can pick. Yo, I actually can't reach. You're gonna have to get this, or we're gonna need to get our ladder in here. Oh, here's one that's fallen. Maybe we don't need to get the ladder, we just need to wait for nature to deliver.
So it's found on the floor. I couldn't wait for it to shrivel up, but it is so juicy.
So, round 3 of our planter beds. While we were away, our helper on the land prepared these for us. We realized that we just needed to look at how the locals do things. We had initially gone opposite to the lay of the land. I can't remember what our reason was. I think it's just because we had a Western mindset and we wanted things to look more aesthetic, but now we've gone with the practical option. We've just prepared the beds and we've layered them with a lot of mulch and chicken manure and more mulch and more green. By the time it comes to planting my seedlings that I've started growing, It's going to be nutrient-rich soil and they're absolutely going to thrive. We're still planning to get a bit of a cover on here, especially for the rainy season. So we'll keep you posted on how this section of the land develops and unfolds, and we'll show you the progress along the way. So just before we left, we celebrated our favorite Balinese festival. Nyepi is the Balinese New Year, which is a silent day in Bali, and it's when everything switches off. So there's no lights, no electricity, no transport, and no working. Even the data gets turned off, so it's just a total day of meditation and introspection, which we absolutely loved. And the day before Nyepi, which is a day when each village parades their demonized monster-like structure that they've been building over the months. Chris got involved and helped carry the ogo round the block 3 times. How was that, sir?
Yeah, my gym workout for the day.
We believe that the purpose of it is to scare off any evil spirits that are lingering around. It's a kind of purification process before the new year comes. All in all, it was a really special occasion to be a part of.
Amy said, sit gingerly, and if you've ever seen a piece of ginger that came out the ground, it looks pretty much like this. No, I'm joking. So the reason I'm sitting on the wood is because our teak that we cut down out of necessity like a year back, we cut it into square columns like this, with not knowing exactly what we're going to do with it. And now what we're going to do is build a ballet, traditional Balinese ballet. Well, we're not going to do it, the traditional Balinese are going to do that. And we managed to use this timber. Obviously we had to buy a lot more timber because it's a big structure, but we're saving a ton of cash, and every time we sit there it's going to feel like it's part of our land. A ballet is like a traditional little hut, which is sort of, the West might call it like a little gazebo. It's elevated off the ground, it's got a sitting platform. Every local compound has one here, and it's also a nice space to meet people that come onto the land that you don't really know and they're wanting to discuss something. It's a wonderful little meeting space, so we've put in the order for that. It's being all handmade, and the nicest part is they're using a lot of our teak. It's really nice to have that personal touch. Yo, can't wait to see the finished product on that. Happy birthday to you. You only get one candle. It's actually a straw. And it's a more mature coconut since you're 32.
Nice and sweet like me.
Yeah.
Look how beautiful these white butterfly pink flowers are. So here's my real birthday cake. Durian.
Oh, it smells good. Push test.
Oh my gosh.